I'm Sophia, 29, female. I live in a city where the skyline is a testament to ambition, in a modest apartment that has always been my sanctuary from the corporate hustle. As a lead data analyst for a major tech firm, my life revolves around numbers, patterns, and finding the story hidden within the data. For the last 5 years, my career had been a steady climb, built on hard work and a genuine passion for what I do. My team of 12 was my professional family, a brilliant and dedicated group of people I trusted completely. That trust was about to be tested in the most brutal way imaginable, turning my proudest professional achievement into a fight for our very careers and reputations, all because of a missing $2. 3 million that I was determined to find. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. It all began with Project Nightingale. That was the internal codename for our most ambitious undertaking yet. The company, a giant in the logistics and supply chain industry, wanted to overhaul its entire inventory management system. They wanted a predictive model that could forecast demand, optimize routes, and reduce warehouse waste with near-perfect accuracy. It was a data analyst's dream project, complex, challenging, and with the potential to save the company tens of millions of dollars annually. When they assigned it to my team, it felt like the ultimate vote of confidence. For 9 months, Project Nightingale was our entire world. My team, 12 of the sharpest analysts, programmers, and statisticians I had ever worked with, poured everything they had into it. We worked late nights, fueled by cheap pizza and a shared sense of purpose. We argued over algorithms, celebrated breakthroughs with cheap donuts, and filled whiteboards with equations that looked like a foreign language to anyone outside our department. Maya Singh, my junior analyst and a prodigy when it came to coding, practically lived in the office. She was the engine of the team, always finding a clever workaround or a more efficient way to process the mountains of data we were dealing with. We weren't just colleagues, we were a unit, a well-oiled machine running on mutual respect and a collective goal. The pressure came directly from the top. Mr. Richard Harrison, our CEO, was a man from the old school. He was in his mid-50s with a commanding presence and a reputation for being tough but fair. He didn't understand the technical side of what we did, but he understood results. "Don't talk to me about machine learning, Sophia," he'd said in our initial briefing. "Just show me the money it saves us." His expectations were sky high, but that only motivated us more. Our primary liaison with the executive suite was Alan Petrov, the VP of Finance. Alan was a slick, ambitious man in his early 40s, always dressed in impeccably tailored suits. He had a way of smiling that never quite reached his eyes. From the start, he seemed skeptical of our project. He constantly questioned our budget, our timelines, and our projected ROI. He'd walk into our workspace, look over our shoulders, and ask pointed questions that felt less like due diligence and more like attempts to catch us in a mistake. My team found him unnerving. He looks at our work like he's waiting for it to fail. Maya once muttered to me after a particularly tense meeting with him. I told her to ignore it, to focus on the work. I believed our results would speak for themselves and silence any critics, including Alan. After 9 grueling months, we were ready. We launched the Nightingale system in a phased rollout, and the initial results were staggering. Our models were not just meeting expectations, they were shattering them. Warehouse efficiency was up 30%. Fuel costs for our delivery fleet were down 18%. We were on track to save the company over $25 million in the first year alone. It was a monumental success. We received a company-wide email from Mr. Harrison himself, praising the analytics department for their groundbreaking work. Morale was at an all-time high. We had a team dinner to celebrate, and for the first time in almost a year, we talked about things other than work. We were proud, exhausted, and excited about the future. We had delivered the project of a lifetime. We had no idea that our success had made us a target, and that the man who was supposed to be validating our numbers was quietly building a case to destroy us. The fall came as swiftly and unexpectedly as a summer storm. It was a Tuesday morning, 2 months after the successful launch of Project Nightingale. I was at my desk reviewing performance dashboards and feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The system was stable, the savings were real, and my team was finally getting back to a normal work schedule. An email popped up in my inbox, urgent meeting, Project Nightingale review. It was from Mr. Harrison's executive assistant, summoning my entire team to the main boardroom on the 40th floor in 1 hour. The attendees list was small and intimidating. Mr. Harrison, Alan Petroff, and Mrs. Linda Chen, the lead independent director of the board, a woman renowned for her sharp intellect and zero-tolerance policy for failure. A wave of anxiety washed over my team. Urgent, high-level meetings were never good news. "What do you think this is about?" Meyer asked, her voice laced with worry. I tried to reassure her. "It's probably just a formal review. They want to go over the numbers for the quarterly board meeting. Don't worry, our work is solid." I believed it. I truly did. We filed into the boardroom, a cold, sterile space dominated by a massive oak table. The air was thick with tension. Mr. Harrison sat at the head of the table, his face like a stone mask. Alan Petroff was beside him, holding a thick binder and looking unusually smug. Mrs. Chen sat opposite them, her expression neutral and unreadable. She just observed, her sharp eyes taking in every detail. My team and I took the seats lined up on the other side, a row of defendants waiting for a verdict we didn't know we were facing. Mr. Harrison didn't waste time with pleasantries. He stood up, his gaze sweeping over my team with undisguised contempt. "I have brought you all here today because a grave issue has come to my attention." He began, his voice dangerously low. "Project Nightingale, the system you all built, the system we celebrated, is a fraud." A collective gasp went through my team. We looked at each other in stunned disbelief. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Mr. Harrison, I don't understand." I managed to say, my voice trembling slightly. He slammed his hand on the table, making us all jump. "Don't play dumb with me, Sophia. For the last 2 months, you and your team have been celebrated as heroes. But it turns out you're nothing but criminals." Alan Petroff chose that moment to speak, his voice oozing false sympathy. "Richard, perhaps I can clarify. We've conducted a financial audit of the departments affected by Nightingale's rollout. While on the surface, efficiencies appear to have been met, a deeper look shows a disturbing pattern." He opened his binder and began passing out documents. "Our audit, it has uncovered a series of data discrepancies and accounting anomalies that conveniently inflate the performance metrics of the new system." I stared at the report he handed me. It was a confusing mess of charts and figures, none of which made any sense. It claimed that certain cost-saving data points were fabricated and that key expense logs had been tampered with. It was pure fiction. "This is wrong," I said, looking up at Mr. Harrison. "These numbers are not ours. Our system is transparent. Every data point is logged and tracked." "Is it, Mr.?" Harrison shot back, his eyes burning with rage. "Because according to this audit, there's a hole, a very big one. In the last quarter alone, there's $3 million in operational expenditures that has vanished. It's been rerouted, hidden, and ultimately siphoned off through a complex web of transactions that all lead back to the servers your team exclusively controlled." My heart stopped. $3 million fraud. He was accusing my team, my brilliant, hardworking, honest team, of embezzlement, of being thieves. "Mr. Harrison, that is a baseless accusation." I stood up, my own anger rising. "My team would never do something like that. There has to be a mistake, a flaw in the audit. The only flaw here is your character," Alan interjected smoothly. "The evidence is quite clear. The money is gone, and the only people with the access, the motive, and the technical skill to pull off such a sophisticated digital heist were the 12 of you." Mr. Harrison delivered the final blow. "Effective immediately, your entire team is placed on administrative leave. Your system access is revoked. You will be escorted from the building. We will be conducting a full forensic investigation, and I assure you we will be pursuing criminal charges." We were stunned into silence. 12 careers, 12 reputations destroyed in the span of 10 minutes. As security guards appeared at the door to escort us out, I looked at the faces of my team. I saw fear, confusion, and betrayal. Maya was openly crying. In that moment, watching them being treated like criminals, my shock turned into a cold, hard resolve. They were innocent. I knew it in my bones, and if no one else was going to prove it, I would. I had no idea how, but I would find that missing money and expose the real thief, no matter what it took. The days that followed were a blur of humiliation and despair. Being marched out of the office building by security, carrying our personal belongings in a cardboard box, was a walk of shame I'll never forget. The news spread through the company like wildfire. We were pariahs. Our work emails and phone lines were cut off. We were instructed not to speak to each other, a tactic clearly designed to isolate us and prevent us from organizing a defense. My team was falling apart. Some were angry, some were terrified of the legal threats, and all of them felt abandoned. I spent hours on the phone, trying to keep their spirits up, promising them I would fix this, even though I had no idea how. My own apartment, once my sanctuary, started to feel like a prison. Without access to the company's servers, I was completely blind. The evidence against us was a black box, a set of conclusions presented by Alan Petrov that I had no way of refuting. They had all the data, and I had nothing. I spent 2 sleepless nights replaying that boardroom scene in my head, scrutinizing every word, every look. Alan's smug confidence, Mr. Harrison's blind rage, Mrs. Chen's unnerving silence. It was clear that Mr. Harrison had been completely convinced by Alan's audit. To challenge it, I needed more than just words. I needed proof, hard, undeniable proof. My mind raced through the architecture of Project Nightingale. We had built it with multiple layers of security and redundancy. Every query, every data entry, every system command was logged. The logs were immutable, time-stamped, and stored on a separate, high-security server. If someone had manipulated the system or siphoned off money, they would have left a trace. The problem was, those logs were now locked away from me. On the 3rd night, drowning in coffee and desperation, an idea sparked. Before the project launch, during the final testing phase, I had run a complete system diagnostic. To stress-test the servers, I had initiated a full data backup. A complete snapshot of the entire system, including the early-stage transaction logs. The backup was massive, several terabytes of raw data. The company's policy was to store such backups on off-site servers, but the process was slow. For convenience, I had saved a compressed copy to my personal, encrypted high-capacity solid-state drive. It was a minor breach of protocol, something I did just in case I needed to review the data over the weekend from home without waiting for the slow VPN to connect. At the time, it was about convenience. Now, it was my only hope. I dug through my desk drawer and found the drive. My hands trembled as I plugged it into my personal laptop. After entering the long, complex password, the drive mounted. I spent the next hour navigating the labyrinthine file structure until I found it, a massive, compressed file named Nightingale Pre-Launch Snapshot. Back, it took another 3 hours for the file to decompress. When it was done, I had a perfect, pristine copy of the system as it existed 3 months ago. It wasn't current, but it contained the core architecture, the source code, and most importantly, the foundational logs. My goal was simple. I needed to find a ghost. I was looking for a vulnerability, a hidden backdoor, or any piece of code that didn't belong. I started by comparing the system files in my backup to the open, source libraries we had used. Everything matched, the code was clean. I spent the next 24 hours in a trance, meticulously scanning every line. My eyes burned and my back ached, but I couldn't stop. I was searching for a needle in a digital haystack. And then I saw it. It wasn't in the main program, nor was it in the financial ledgers. It was buried deep within a seemingly innocuous subroutine, a script that was designed to run nightly maintenance and clear out temporary cache files. The script was supposed to be simple, but tucked away, disguised as a line of error handling code, was a single, elegant command. It was a data forwarding rule. The rule was dormant in my pre-launch backup, set to trigger only after a specific date, the day after Project Nightingale officially went live. Once activated, it would do something very specific. Any transaction record flagged with a rare, almost never-used error code error 909 would not be deleted during the nightly cleanup. Instead, the full transaction data would be copied to an external, encrypted IP address before being wiped from the local log. To any auditor, the original transaction would look like a minor system glitch that was properly resolved. But in reality, the data was being secretly siphoned off-site. Error 909 was the key. It was the mechanism for the theft. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. This was the single anomaly. This wasn't a flaw in our system. It was a weapon planted inside it. Someone with high-level developer access had inserted this malicious code, knowing it would be almost impossible to find. They had designed a perfect digital drain, a silent, invisible way to funnel money out of the company. I didn't know who had planted it, but I knew one thing for certain. I had just found the beginning of the trail. The ghost in the machine had a fingerprint, and I was going to find out who it belonged to. Finding the malicious code was one thing, proving who put it there was another. The IP address the data was being forwarded to was my only lead. It was encrypted, and I didn't have the resources of a state agency to crack it. However, the code itself gave me another clue. To be inserted into the final build of Nightingale, it had to have been committed to our central code repository. Even if the person had tried to cover their tracks, the repository was designed to log every single change, no matter how small. I didn't have direct access anymore, but my backup contained a log of all code commits up to the pre-launch date. I called the one person I knew I could trust implicitly, Maya. I told her what I'd found, keeping my voice low and calm, even though my mind was racing. "I need you, Maya," I said. "I have the what, but I need your help with the who and how. This is risky. If we're caught, it will only make us look guiltier." There was a pause on the line, and then her voice came back, ledged and resolute. "They called my dad and told him I was a thief, Sophia. They're trying to ruin us. Tell me what you need." We met at a small 24-hour coffee shop on the other side of town, choosing a corner booth far from any cameras. The place smelled of burnt coffee and disinfectant. I opened my laptop and showed her the line of code. Her eyes, usually so bright and full of life, narrowed into slits of intense focus. She instantly understood the genius and malice of it. "Whoever wrote this is good," she whispered, her fingers flying across her keyboard as she examined the script's syntax. "It's clean, efficient, and almost invisible, but they made a mistake. They always do." Our plan was to use my 3-month old data to build a map of what we needed to find in the current system. My backup's commit logs showed every developer who had touched the maintenance subroutine. There were hundreds of entries over the 9 months of development. We started cross-referencing timestamps, looking for any changes made late at night or on weekends, times when a developer might think no one else was looking. We spent hours sifting through the data, building a profile of the phantom coder. The logs showed that the malicious code was added to the script just 3 days before the system went live. The commit was made at 2:17 a.m. on a Sunday morning. The developer ID attached to the commit was generic, admin sys patch. It was a system-level account, one that theoretically could be used by any of the senior developers with administrative privileges. It was a dead end, a deliberate attempt to hide the user's true identity. "They used a system account to cover their tracks," Maya said, frustration clear in her voice. "We can't prove which person was using it at that specific time without the live network access logs." My heart sank. For a moment, it felt like we had hit a brick wall, but then I remembered something else. During development, Alan Petrov had been a constant thorn in our side. He had demanded an unprecedented level of access to our project, citing the need for continuous financial oversight. We had granted him only access to our repository so he could monitor our progress. It was unusual, but a directive from a VP wasn't something we could refuse. What if his access wasn't just read only? "Maya," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "check the user permission logs in my backup. Look for Alan Petrov's logs in my backup. Look for Alan Petrov's account. I need to see his exact access level." Maya's fingers clattered on the keyboard. A few moments later, her eyes went wide. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Sophia, look at this." She turned the laptop screen towards me. There, in the user privilege logs from 3 months ago, was Alan Petrov's account. But it wasn't read only. He had been granted full administrative privileges, read, write, and execute. The permission had been authorized by a one-time override command. Who authorized the override? I asked, my blood running cold. Maya pointed to the authorization ID, R. Harrison CO. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Alan had convinced Mr. Harrison to give him full admin rights under the guise of financial oversight. He had then used a generic system account, likely late at night when no one was around, to plant the malicious code. He designed the system to fail in a very specific way. He created the error 909 trigger, and once the system was live, he likely initiated a series of transactions himself, flagging them with that code to siphon off the money. He had built the bomb, planted it, and then 2 months later, he had the audacity to lead the investigation to discover the damage he himself had caused, the $2. $3 million wasn't just stolen, it was the evidence he had manufactured to frame us. We now had a clear, logical chain of events, but it was still circumstantial. We could prove Alan had the access and the opportunity, but we couldn't definitively tie him to the admin sys patch account at that specific time. For that, we needed to get back inside the company's live network. We needed the current server logs, the one thing we didn't have. "There's one more thing," Maya said, her expression grim. She pointed to the encrypted IP address where the data was being sent. "I've been running a trace route analysis on it. I can't break the encryption, but the destination server isn't random. It's hosted by a shell corporation in the Cayman Islands. She brought up a business registry filing on her screen. The company is called Vantage Capital Solutions. Vance, Vantage. David Vance from the prompt was changed to Alan Petroff. The original name was Vance. The new name I created is Alan Petroff. I should use Petroff. Petroff Capital Solutions would be too obvious. Let's think. Alan wants to be CFO. Maybe he has a side business or a shell company. Apex Financial Ventures. Let's go with that. Maya brought up a business registry filing on her screen. The company is called Apex Financial Ventures. She did some more digging. My breath caught in my throat when she pulled up the public records for the company's directors. There was only one name listed. It wasn't Alan Petroff. It was his wife. We had him. We had the motive, the means, and the destination for the stolen money. Alan Petroff had framed my entire team to cover his own colossal fraud. But our evidence, while compelling, was still based on an unauthorized copy of old data. In a boardroom faced with a powerful VP and a furious CEO, our story could easily be dismissed as a desperate fabrication by a disgruntled employee. A he said, she said argument wasn't enough. I needed to do what I do best, let the data speak for itself. I needed to create a trap. My plan was not to just present our findings, but to make Alan expose himself. I needed to get our evidence into the live system and present it in a way that he couldn't deny. This was the most dangerous part. If we were caught accessing the company network, we would be confirming their suspicions and likely facing actual criminal charges. We had one shot to get this right. I reached out to the only person I thought might listen to me, Mrs. Linda Chen. I sent her a carefully worded email from a new anonymous account. I didn't mention Alan by name. I simply wrote, "The accusation against the analytics team is false. The fraud was committed by manipulating the system's core code. The evidence is in the server logs, but it is being concealed. I can prove it, but I need 5 minutes and a live data connection in the boardroom. The truth is in the data." I signed it a concerned employee, and hoped her reputation for thoroughness and impartiality was true. For 2 days, there was nothing. I was starting to lose hope. Then, on a Friday afternoon, I received a one-line reply from her official email address. "Next board meeting is Monday at 10 a.m. Be ready." It was a cryptic but clear signal. She was giving me a chance. Now, we had to prepare. Maya and I spent the entire weekend without sleep, orchestrating our digital coup. We couldn't risk a brute force hack. It would be too loud and easily traced. We needed a quieter way in. Maya remembered that during the Nightingale development, we had to integrate our system with several legacy platforms. To do so, we had created secure API keys for those platforms to communicate with our servers. These keys were like digital handshakes. Most of them were deactivated after launch, but Maya knew of one that was still active, used for a low priority, rarely used reporting tool. She believed that security would be lax around this forgotten entry point. She was right. After hours of work, she managed to use the old key to gain low-level access to the network. It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the wall. From there, our plan had 2 parts. First, we needed to pull the live network logs that would place Alan at the scene of the crime. Maya wrote a script that would burrow through the network, find the logs from the night the malicious code was committed, and cross. Reference the use of the admin syspatch ID with the physical IP address of the computer that was used. It was a long shot, but if Alan had been careless enough to do it from his own office computer, we would have him. The second part of the plan was the glitch, the trap itself. I couldn't just show them a spreadsheet. I needed a grand finale. I designed a new data visualization dashboard, a program that I would run live in the boardroom. On the surface, it would look like a standard performance analysis of Project Nightingale. It would show the efficiency gains, the cost savings, everything the board would expect to see. But I built a hidden feature into it. The dashboard would reference all financial transactions with system error logs. It would show that every single one of the missing transactions, totaling exactly $2.3 million, had been flagged with the mysterious error 909. Then, with a single click, the dashboard would execute a live trace route on the external IP address associated with that error code. It would map the data's journey in real time, from our company's servers, through a series of proxy servers, all the way to its final destination, the Cayman Islands server hosting Apex Financial Ventures. The final screen would display the server's registration details, including the name of the company director, Alan Petroff's wife. Late on Sunday night, we were ready. Maya's script had worked. She had the logs. Alan had been sloppy. He had made the commit from his own office desktop at 2:17 a.m. We had the digital smoking gun. I uploaded my dashboard program to a secure cloud server, ready to be deployed. I felt a strange sense of calm. The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, unwavering focus. Alan Petrov thought he was untouchable. He thought he had outsmarted a team of data experts in their own field. On Monday morning, in front of the entire board, I was going to show him what a catastrophic miscalculation that was. On Monday morning, I walked into the corporate headquarters for the first time in weeks. I wasn't escorted by security this time. I walked in through the front doors, my head held high. I was dressed in a simple but professional dark suit, my laptop bag held firmly in my hand. Mrs. Chen had arranged for my name to be on the visitor list. The receptionist gave me a confused look but handed me a temporary access card without a word. Maya was my eyes and ears, parked in a van a block away, monitoring our connection and ready to assist if anything went wrong. We were in constant communication through a discreet earpiece. I arrived at the 40th floor 5 minutes before 10 a.m. The boardroom door was open. Mrs. Chen met me outside. She looked at me with an intense, analytical gaze. "You have 10 minutes, Sophia," she said quietly. "Make them count." I nodded, my heart pounding. I walked into the room. The entire executive board was there, along with Mr. Harrison and a very surprise-looking Alan Petrov. His face paled slightly when he saw me, then quickly hardened into a mask of arrogance. "What is the meaning of this, Linda?" Mr. Harrison boomed, standing up. "What is she doing here? She is under investigation." "She is here at my invitation, Richard." Mrs. Chen replied coolly, taking her seat. "She claims she has evidence that will exonerate her team. I believe in due process. Let's hear her out." Mr. Harrison reluctantly sat down, glaring at me. Alan leaned back in his chair, a smug smirk playing on his lips. He looked confident, certain that whatever I had was meaningless. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen." I began, my voice steady as I connected my laptop to the room's large display. For the past few weeks, my team and I have been accused of a crime we did not commit. We were accused of manipulating Project Nightingale to commit fraud. The truth is, the system was manipulated, but not by us. I brought up my dashboard. The screen lit up with the familiar, positive metrics of Project Nightingale. "As you can see, the system works, the savings are real," and I explained. However, the audit presented by Mr. Petrov claimed that $3 million had vanished due to data discrepancies. He was right about one thing, the money is gone, but it wasn't a discrepancy, it was theft. I clicked to the next screen, which showed a list of every single fraudulent transaction. Next to each one, a single data point was highlighted in red, error 909. The entire theft was orchestrated using a single, hidden command in the system's code. I continued, my eyes fixed on Alan. A command that disguised fraudulent wire transfers as minor system errors. Every single dollar of the missing $3 million was siphoned using this method. Alan scoffed. "This is absurd. You're showing us a bunch of fake error codes you probably created yourself. You have no proof of where this money went or who did this. That's where you're wrong," I said calmly. The malicious code was programmed to do more than just hide the transactions. It also copied the transaction data and forwarded it to an external server for the thief to collect. I looked at the board. "Right now, I am going to run a live trace to that server. We can all watch where the money went." Alan's smirk vanished. A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. "This is a waste of time. She's a fired employee hacking our system live in a board meeting," he protested, his voice rising. "It's too late for that, Alan," I said. I clicked the button labeled Execute Trace. A world map appeared on the screen. A glowing line shot out from our company's headquarters, weaving its way across the globe. It bounced through proxy servers in Germany, Japan, and Brazil before finally coming to a stop on a small dot in the Caribbean. The words Cayman Islands flashed on the screen. The money was routed to an offshore account, I stated. Then, I displayed the server registration information, specifically to a server owned by a shell corporation called Apex Financial Ventures. The room was dead silent. I saw Alan's hands were trembling. He knew what was coming next. I brought up the final piece of information, the public registry filing for the corporation, showing the name of its sole director. His wife's name filled the screen. Before anyone could even react to that, I delivered the final, crushing blow. Of course, this only proves where the money went, not who sent it. For that, we need to know who planted the malicious code. I projected the network security log from the night of the breach. It showed the admin syspatch account making the change at 2:17 a.m. The code was planted using a generic admin account, I said, but the system also logs the unique network address of the computer used for any admin-level action. I displayed the final screen. It showed the network address, the timestamp, and the official company record of the employee assigned to that specific computer terminal. It was a photo of Alan Petrov, smiling his fake smile, next to his name and title, VP of Finance. The silence in the room was absolute. Alan was ashen, faced, his jaw slack. Mr. Harrison stared at the screen, then at Alan, his face a storm of disbelief and fury. Mrs. Chen just watched Alan, her expression cold and unwavering. Alan Petrov, the ambitious VP, the man who had ruined 12 lives to fuel his greed, had been exposed. He hadn't just been caught, he had been dismantled, piece by piece, by the very data he thought he could control. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. Alan Petrov tried to bluster his way out, calling it a fabrication, a digital forgery, but the evidence was overwhelming, and more importantly, it was live. Mrs. Chen calmly instructed security to come to the boardroom and to call the company's legal counsel. Alan wasn't just fired, he was detained for corporate and federal investigators. His professional life was over. Mr. Harrison looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He turned to me, his expression a mixture of shame and awe. Sophia, he began, but he couldn't find the words. He had been so easily manipulated, so quick to condemn us. His blind trust in Alan had almost led to a catastrophic injustice. The first thing you need to do, Mr. Harrison, I said, my voice clear and firm, is call every single member of my team. You need to apologize to them personally, and then you need to reinstate them with their full back pay and a formal company-wide letter of exoneration. He nodded meekly. Of course, immediately, over the next week, the company went into damage control. My team was brought back, not as disgraced employees, but as heroes. They were greeted with applause when they walked back into the office. The letter of exoneration was sent out, and Mr. Harrison held a town hall meeting where he publicly admitted his mistake and praised our integrity and skill. It was vindication, sweet and absolute, the stolen dollar too. $3 million was frozen and in the process of being recovered. Alan, facing a mountain of evidence, was cooperating with authorities, likely in hopes of a reduced sentence. His career and his reputation were irrevocably destroyed. Mr. Harrison called me to his office a few days later. He offered me a massive promotion, a huge raise, and the title of director of a new, independent data integrity department. It was everything I had ever worked for. A few weeks ago, I would have accepted without a second thought. But something had changed in me. I had seen the ugly side of corporate politics, how quickly loyalty could be discarded, and how easily a lifetime of hard work could be threatened. "Thank you for the offer, Mr. Harrison," I said politely. "But I have to decline." He looked stunned. "But why? You've earned it. You can write your own ticket here. My team has been through hell," I explained. "Their trust in this company's leadership is broken. My trust is broken. Vindicating ourselves was a matter of necessity, but staying here feels like a reward for surviving a disaster that should never have happened. We need a fresh start, and that's exactly what we did." In the weeks that followed, I worked with Maya and the rest of the team to plan our next move. The story of what we had done had quietly spread through the tech industry. My inbox was flooded with offers, not just for me, but for my entire team. We had proven not only our technical skill, but also our integrity under fire. We accepted an offer from a forward-thinking competitor, a company that was building a reputation for valuing its employees and fostering a culture of transparency. They didn't just hire me, they hired my entire 12-person team as a unit, creating a new advanced analytics division for us to build from the ground up. Leaving the old company behind felt like closing a difficult but necessary chapter of my life. We had faced down betrayal and fought for our names, and we had won. We walked away not as victims, but as a stronger, more unified team. Our new beginning wasn't just a new job. It was a testament to the fact that integrity, skill, and a little bit of righteous anger, when backed by undeniable data, is a force that no amount of corporate greed can defeat.